This is the first meeting that I had with Sennen, who's going to be working with us and preparing things about items and about the new patch. I wanted to make a short video here explaining because I forgot to explain it when we recorded together. So this is not a review of the items. This is not an in-depth our thoughts on the items or anything like that. What we're doing here is trying to prepare how we take his current thoughts and current analysis of the items and how we start to get it to a point where it's as useful as possible for the players. So this is the process that you're seeing. There hopefully will be some stuff here that's interesting about the items, about the patch. But what you're really seeing is not that, it's not the completed version, it's how we might start to get towards the completed version. When we have a completed video that he makes, we might share it here, but definitely it will be shared with all the players, and then there'll be follow-up tests and stuff like that on it to make sure that they've seen it. So hope you enjoy. Let me know down below if you have any suggestions, comments, or anything else that you'd want to see or you want to see done differently.
Okay, so the graphics not really too important. I've just kind of put some basic
Yeah,
information on
sure,
there.
sure.
So honestly, in terms of this patch, not really much change to items. I'll start off with the Bloodletter's Curse. This is basically just a AP Black Cleaver. So I
Yeah.
think this item will be really good on champions like Rumble. So AP Bruisers, also maybe like Mordekaiser, stuff like that. Although I don't know how much Mordekaiser will be played in competitive. I think outside of that, I don't see many junglers really building this because they like a mini and stuff like that. I think they prefer like more resists and
Okay.
items like that. I think
If we do
it
have
could end
any
up,
like AP bruises in the jungle, it could be right. Like if we get a Gwen in the jungle or something like that, could it be useful or not?
yeah, it could be. That's what I was just going to lead on to. It could end up being a replacement for Riftmaker because I believe Riftmaker isn't actually that strong at the moment. However, it will depend because I know like Gwen and stuff likes the Nash's build, like the Nash's
Mm,
Toothbrush. So
mm.
it could definitely end up being a
So,
replacement for
and
Riftmaker,
how does
but
it
I can
work?
see.
Is it every tick of AP damage, or is it every tick of damage, or is it every
Uh,
hit?
let me just-
Because my other thing that I'm thinking is
yeah.
like, does it combo really well with Leandries? Does Leandries tick like one spell ticks Leandries, which therefore ticks all of Bloodletters, or
It says dealing magic damage with abilities or passives. So yeah,
okay?
I think it could
So
combo
dots yes,
pretty
items
well.
no. So
Yeah, I don't think it's items it
yeah.
combos with. It just says abilities.
So Leandries doesn't instant stack all your Black Cleaver,
Yeah,
but Cassio, Malzahar,
yeah, it could potentially. I still don't think it will be super amazing. I think them, like for example, Malzahar will still probably really like. It's not that it won't be good on Malzahar. It'll just be trying to fit it into its build because it quite likes Black Cleaver Torch, Black Fire Torch, even the Andres, and then obviously other allies. So it's just about where it would fit into the build. But I think it definitely could be an option.
okay. Sorry, I derailed
Um,
your thing.
no, you're all good. So yeah, yeah, it definitely could lead to champions like Lilia and stuff. Also, yeah, potentially building it. It would just be about where in the build path, because obviously Leandries, Lydia likes Sonya's and stuff like that. So it's just about where it would fit, you know.
Mm.
In terms of Heartsteel, this is not really much change. This is basically just a buff to champions who have HB in their kit, so like Sion and Cho'Gath. So I'm sure the Baus will really like this change.
Wait, so
In
what's the
terms
what's
of,
the buff with Heartsteel? Because I thought there was
uh,
supposed to be a bit of a nerf, wasn't it, or not?
I don't really think so. Let me get the actual damage up. So, so yeah, it's going from maximum health to now. So it's now maximum health, whereas before it was damage dealt, I believe. So let me just read through it again. Yeah, so it's going from bonus health now to maximum health is the change.
Okay.
So although it's slightly, it'll be slightly. So yeah, champions who have generally more maximum health in their kit will be better. So this is basically just a nerf to champions, I believe, who purely buy Heartsteel for the stacking aspect.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it doesn't. It's not really going to change much. Like it's not going to now. Science going to be super broken where it wasn't before. Or I don't think any of the item changes really do that. But it will definitely um, just be a bit of a more feel good thing.
Yeah, sure.
Um, in terms of Unending Despair, this is probably the most substantial nerf. I think it just makes it not a great first item. I think like first items which have mixed resistances are generally not great, which
Hmm.
means I think it still can be a good second or third item. Obviously, it now competes more with like Jack's Show. I think it still is better than Jack's Show in a lot of cases, just because I think the passive, even with the nerfs, is still pretty strong.
Okay.
So yeah, that's basically on that. I think champions who probably rushed it before, so Maokai and I think there's a few other champions as well, will generally be slightly weaker, but they'll still have other options. Like I think Maokai is one of the only champions that can either rush it or it could just he can go items like Spirit Visage or other
Okay.
stuff. So a bit of a nerf. In terms of War Mogs, this is essentially just a Mundo nerf because I don't think anyone else really built it or it was that good.
Yeah.
But it basically just forces him to buy it as a second item. But yeah, I just don't think it's a
Okay.
great item on
So
anyone
you
else
can't
in
first
general.
item
So,
it on anyone.
as far as I'm
Originally,
aware,
yeah,
no.
it's like you could first item it on everyone, then you could first item it on a couple of people, and now you can't first item it on anyone. Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah, I think the health required is literally just too much. And in terms of items, that's literally all the changes there
It's the
are.
boots
So
again,
in
right? Is the only other thing?
the boots, yeah, I got that. I can go through the boots. Let me get the right side up. Uh, so I'll use this slideshow. I think the boots in general, if we talk about just the pure statistics, they're all like really good, right? I think that's pretty common knowledge and undisputed by this point. I think Swifties are obviously clearly the best one, and I think um, the Berserker ones are probably slightly weakest, just because I think attack speed is kind of a worse buff compared to the other buffs you get for say for example magic pen. I think 10%
Okay.
magic pen and 10% attack speed aren't like really the same thing.
Yeah, you
I
still
think
get the
magic
movement
pen
speed,
is
right?
just you get a bit of movement speed as
Like
well,
for, you
but
get the on hit passive thing, but that's harder
yeah,
to
you do
quantify,
get
right?
it's harder to quantify and
My thinking
I,
so
yeah
far with that, I don't know if you disagree, is that in certain situations where it's front to back, I think they can still be good because of the like
yeah
stacking movement speed, which you just stack it on the, if you're on hit Varus or if you're playing, I don't know, Jinx or something, if Jinx and stuff come back, that could be quite obnoxious because you stack it on the
yeah
first person and then when you've got your excited, it can be insane. But a lot of times, for example, we were playing Caitlyn at one point, and I think Matty was right to not build it when he was playing against a bunch of different divers coming from everywhere. So I don't think it was that
yeah.
good. The question with Swifties would be like, is it worth getting Swifties on ADs rather than attack speed boots? Or
I think that's exactly what I was just going to go on to. I think in general, a lot of ADCs are moving towards swiftness boots. So this is generally a buff for spellcaster ADCs. So this will be
yeah.
like Ashe, Varus, all these type of
But
champions.
okay,
So
so are they OP enough that on hit Varus should still build swiftness boots rather than a Berserker Greaves or like Jinx, or that's what I mean.
I think
Especially if you
I
get the
think
feats of strength.
Varus, yeah, for sure. I think Varus should pretty much always be going swiftness boots. I think in terms of Jinx and Caitlyn and champs like that, they're kind of forced into Berserker Greaves, or they're quite good at it with them, so it still makes sense. It's not like swiftness boots are like turbo broken and like everyone
Mm,
should be building them 100% of the time. I don't think that is the case. I
okay.
think Berserker Greaves, as you said, still can be good, but like champions who could build both tend to now,
Mm.
and in my opinion, do more often go swiftness boots. That's not to say like Jinx is now unplayable just because she can't really build swiftness boots. Um, so yeah, obviously the plate still capped and Mercs upgrades. Again, not really much to say on them. They just kind of like feel good shield. I don't think you'd be able to proc it twice in a fight because the cooldown's quite long. So um, yeah, I think they're decent. But
Bit more
how many
anti-poke.
chumps are going to build it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
Um, you know,
so the basic thing is we should buy upgraded whenever we get feats of strength. Everyone should buy upgraded boots unless they need third item for a big fight.
yeah, I guess I could talk about that a bit more. I think really upgrading the boots, like you're always going to want to do it. I think there's even some cases where, like, say you're like someone on your team is quite far ahead, say your rumble's like 4-0 or something, or someone's really strong. There'll even be cases where you're able to get 2 items and boots before the Atakan fight, which I think will be pretty important if you're like 4-0 Rumble rocks up with 2 items and Dork boots with the 10% magic pen is just going to be like a lot stronger than a 2 items and say another component. Um, but to talk of them more generally, I think you should always be building them pretty much. I think, like you said, there are definitely cases where you you may want to delay them because obviously buying them will delay your third item by about 2 minutes. So say there's not really any like important fights, like there's no important dragon fight, or there's not seeming like you say you don't need to progress the game quickly. Say you have a more scaling comp, you may prioritize like getting like a death cap or something of that type. Um, in terms of feats of strength in general, I think they are just a buff to grubs as well, because if you get grubs, it's easier to get towers, so it makes grubs basically more important. I guess that's kind of not really related to the boots
Yeah.
individually, but
But the point is that the boots upgrades are very valuable. The free boot upgrade gives you 100 to 200 gold worth of stats, and the paid boot
yeah,
upgrade is worth it on everyone and worth it before your fourth item for sure.
yeah,
And
definitely.
other like worth it before your fourth item, except from the Berserker Greave upgrade, which is situational. If you're not in fights where you can auto attack to stack it up, then it's not worth getting.
I mean,
Or if you
yeah,
need a GA
basically.
or something like that. Like
I
the only thing
mean,
is that the ADs might have like fourth and fifth spikes that are important as well. And are they too important for boots or not?
I still think the boosts are worth getting, even if you go for the Berserker ones,
Hmm.
unless, like you said, they're you're not really hitting much with, so you're not going to get the movement speed.
Mm.
I think there may be other situations where, like, say you've gone for the MR resist boots, but their 2 carries are like really far behind. Then you might think like, what's the point in magic resist? But then I just don't think it's still going to be nice to have. So I think
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think there's many other scenarios where
Okay.
not upgrading them will be best, at least for now. I
Okay.
wouldn't be surprised if they got nerfed a bit, but
So
obviously.
the reason that I'm asking these questions, I might actually have a
Yep,
delivery at some point. So sorry if I have to dash off for a second. But
it's
the
all good.
reason that I'm asking these questions is what I am looking for with this is for you to try and make it like the goal is to be as simple as possible for the players.
Okay.
Now that doesn't mean as simple as possible, as in as little information as possible. But what
Yeah,
it does mean is adding that filter of finding how the information becomes simplest to remember. So, for example, if you tell me exactly the stats of the Bloodletter's Curse or whatever it's called, that's not useful to remember.
yeah,
But if you tell me these are the champions who might love it, these are the champions where I think it could be an interesting thing to buy, and these are the situations where it's good, that is useful information. That actually is
yeah,
simplifying
true.
Bloodletter's Curse, you know? Like, so if each of the item changes, you could do something like that, then I think it would actually kind of simplify things. Um, Well, we can actually talk about it in a second, but you mentioned about like recording a video of it. The other thing that I think could be really interesting, because recording a video and talking to camera and turning the stream on is hard. To be honest, I do it a lot, but I cheat. I have a teleprompter, so I write a script and I read it from the teleprompter, and it looks like I'm talking to the camera.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend is do that. Write a script and just read the script, and then
Okay.
at a future time, listen to the script and click through your slides to get it right. And then the other thing that could be really
Okay.
interesting is the slides. Then we can go back and forth on the script as well. So we'll keep going. But the reason I'm asking these questions is to try and get to, like, I guess the thing that I'd like you to ask yourself in each stage is like, how do I make this as simple to understand as possible? And again, simple to
Yeah.
understand is not the same as little information as possible, um, but as simple to understand. So a lot of the items, I think, I didn't know this, by the way, before we started talking. So otherwise, I would have told you. But as we're talking, for me, a lot of the items are more simple when we talk about like in-game stuff. So like,
Yep.
okay, triumphant boot upgrade, the free boot upgrade is worth between 100 and 200 gold. Love that. That's so simple. That's so good. I'm going to remember that forever and tell everyone it as if I've thought of it.
Yep.
And then, okay, the boot upgrades should be bought in almost every situation. Or you can say,
Yep.
like, boot upgrades should be bought in 99% of games,
Yep.
probably after third item, so second item and boot upgrades is reasonable for Atakan, but for Baron, if you
Yeah.
need
So
that third item.
yeah, it depends on the role as well, right? Like your
Mm.
support for your support, like how
Yeah.
often are you going to be getting 3 items as a
I mean,
support, and for
support, you probably
jungler,
just rush them, right? Like, you probably just want them straight
yeah,
away.
yeah.
Yeah.
The same for jungler, really. Like,
Yeah.
with the items you're building aren't necessarily like big high damage carry
Mm.
items.
Mm.
So
It's basically what I'm thinking when I see these boots is I'm thinking it's two options. Either these are things where it's like it will be good in the late game because we're going to have 6 items and boots, and they're going to have just 6 items, better boots, not
yeah,
just boots, or they're really strong and I should get them as soon as I can. And that's the part that makes it actually simple to just know that
okay,
boundary. Um, like, we can assume that all the players, by the time they're seeing this, know what all the boots do. We can assume
yeah,
that they've read the patch. But what I'm looking for with you is not to just like recreate the patch, but to actually just simple as possible. These are the things that are important. So Warmogs, I wouldn't even have a slide on it. I would have it just as like a
okay,
small thing in the bottom. Just like Warmogs change doesn't matter much. Just means it just can't be rushed on window. Because when like even here, right, you've done it a few times where I've asked about a specific detail of a item and you have to read it. That's because when you read a whole sheet of all that, it's so hard to remember.
yeah,
so so now if someone asks me about Warmogs, what's the Warmogs change, I when I read it, I wouldn't be able to respond. I would say something, I don't know, but now I'm going to say just you can't get it first item. So
yeah.
that's like that's why the sort of translation of the patch for me is really important. So sorry, I keep derailing it. So let's
No,
carry
no.
on. So boots
Um,
should get as soon as possible. Should get in almost every situation. The least likely one is berserkers, but even then, it's like 90% of the time, it's still good to get.
yeah, yeah. I think pretty much. Yeah, that's it in terms of boots. Unless do you have any more questions on boots or?
No, no, all good for me.
Um, so yeah, that's basically everything I had in terms of items. I guess I'm surprised with how little changes they did really, because like you said, the Warmogs is pretty like the change doesn't really matter, and some of the other stuff. So I don't think the item changes or the boot changes even are gonna like change the meta in any sort of massive way or make some champions really strong or anything. I just think yeah, there's small changes which could affect some specific champions' build paths. And yeah, I haven't really got much more to add
Okay.
than that really, unless you
So
have.
is there other stuff about the patch that you think, I mean, like the runes and stuff, if we can do the same thing with the
Um,
runes, that would be great.
yeah, I have the runes
I saw it. You have loads of
somewhere.
stuff on your presentation. It's great.
Yeah, I did a bunch of stuff just because even if I don't use it for this, I'll probably end
Yeah,
up
yeah. Yeah.
running
Show
with
it to
it.
me. Let's go for it.
We'll go to the runes.
Hmm.
So let me just. I also have some notes. Let me get them up.
So even this, right? Axiom Arcanist can be good on champions that don't rely on mana flow band. That's good.
Yeah,
But what would make it simpler is
is
what are some champions, and what is there going to be loads? Is there going to be like, is there anyone who doesn't need mana flow band and doesn't need Axiom Arcanist? What even is the third one in that tree? I
um
can't remember.
um. I think the third one's Nimbus Cloak. I think.
Okay.
But I think I haven't, to be honest, looked at what champions don't want either. But I'm sure there's a
Mm.
few.
Even
But
just
in terms
champions
of
that want
what,
Axiom Arcanist would be useful.
yeah, I think it's hard to judge, right? Because a lot of it's on the
Mm.
player, whether how greedy they want to be and how
Mm.
much they think they can get away with
Mm.
not having mana flow.
Mm.
But I think,
How
God,
how about, would it be crazy to have almost like you do two things? You do one thing, which is you simplify the patch as much as possible in terms of you take all the text that Riot gives and instead you present what it actually means. So
yeah,
Mundo, like you can't buy Warmog's first item. Uh, Heartsteel is a buff because of the scaling. You know, those kind of things. Actually, even buff and
yeah,
nerf, get rid of that. Forget that. So Heartsteel now scales off health instead of damage done. Uh, you can't buy Warmog's first item. Those kind of things. Bloodletters is magic damage AP, and then Black Cleaver AP Black Cleaver, and then almost have like a second point where it's like my thoughts on this, like as if you're adding like a, like editor's note type
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
which could be quite fun. Because that way you
yeah. I
can
think that's
be a bit more bold with your predictions, and we're not trying to give them the impression that they're 100% right. So here it's like
yeah,
Axiom Arc can be really good on champions that don't rely on mana flow band, and then you're like Sennen's opinion, or like however you want to. I
yeah,
don't know how you want to do it, but however you want to do it, like the like extra notes or whatever it might be, editor's opinion piece is I would try it on these champs, but it will depend on playstyle.
yeah. Oh yeah, I think that's a good idea, and it isn't something I really thought about. I think that kind of links to the simplicity thing pretty well,
Mm.
which you were on about, which
Mm.
maybe should have put more thought into when I was
No, not at all.
doing this. But
This is the reason that doing these talks is good, and also I would not be able to
yeah,
come up with that already. Like I said, if I could have, I would have told you. um, but I literally wasn't even thinking exactly how this is going to work until we're talking about it, and that's why it's so good for me
yeah,
to have all you guys doing like a specific role. And the other thing is that there will be people who do items on teams and even LEC teams, and I would tell you that probably 95% of them are going to be basically like making a pretty presentation that just tells them the exact information they could read in the patch. And I don't want that. Like, I'm not going to treat it
yeah,
like our players are kids and aren't going to read the patch. I want to do the actual useful part beyond that. Which, like I say, no one does. I don't know what's. Otherwise, I would show you some examples of what I wanted. I don't know what I want. So, I'm saying,
yeah.
don't worry
No,
about.
but
This is not. You should have done
yeah,
it by now. I just think this can be fun.
yeah, it's definitely like, hopefully each time I do it, it's gonna get better and
Yeah,
better. So
perfect. Yeah.
um, so yeah, I guess going back onto the Axiom Arcanist, I think, like I said, it kind of depends on the player. I think some champions which could be good with it are Syndra, champions that don't necessarily want to um, throw all their abilities out. They want to be quite reservative with their abilities, I guess is a better way of saying it, because Syndra's cooldowns are quite long, so
Mm.
all of them at once can
Yeah.
be quite bad. Also, um, let me get the exact fit notes, but it's better on champions whose ultimates are not an AoE basically. So it
Okay.
will be like I believe 5 or 6%
It's
weaker
like
on
Syndra
someone like
Viger, stuff like that.
yeah,
Okay. The
exactly, or Malzahar.
Yeah. The other question that I have, actually, this is probably what we should do for the next patch. Is
Yeah,
I'll go through it first, or even we can go through it even before you've done any work. We can just look at it together, and I can ask, as someone who hates numbers and loves making things simple, these are the questions that I have, and next time.
yeah.
Because the two questions I have for this is, yeah, when do you take it instead of mana flow band? And the second one is it good enough to change anyone's secondary tree? Is there someone who's taking sorcery second so that they can get this, and you get this and, I don't know, the stacking one, or this and the cooldown one, where it's like, okay, I would have done uh precision and domination on Akali, but now I do precision and this so that I can get Axiom Arcanist. Do you think I don't think Akali is necessarily a good one, especially if it's AoE, counts as AoE. So, but is there anyone you think that takes this instead? Rumble takes this, for example, or no?
I don't think so. No, to be honest,
Okay.
I don't think it's that strong.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I
So
don't think
that would
anyone's
be a
going to do
useful
that.
thing. Actually, what we'll do is when I stop recording, I'll go through the patch and I'll send you a list of the questions that I have, because I realize I just keep interrupting you. But we'll
No,
do
no,
it.
it's all good.
We can do it like that. So there's stuff to think about. Because yeah, if I can just stick to the purely practical side of it, like in a scrim, what is the kind of things that
Yeah,
I need to know, and therefore assume that the players need to know the same thing when they're in the game, and we'll try and get it from there. Cool. Okay. That's good for the
yeah,
room.
I think that's good.
Next one.
In terms of the other runes, I didn't really have much written down for them
Mm.
as I don't think they're that important.
They just
They're
support.
all no, not necessarily. They're warding runes basically. So they're replacing on the domination tree. So I
Yeah.
don't think many supports are actually taking domination at the moment, apart from like Pike. So
Okay.
I don't think it will.
Is it good
I
enough to
mean, maybe I'm
take
wrong.
the domination tree second? That's another question. The other thing, by the way, is
I
always
mean,
if I ask these questions and you don't know, we can still put the question in and say, like, I'm not sure, but maybe there's some champions that can take domination second just so they get it. Yeah. Sorry, I'll let you answer rather than
yeah,
just.
no, 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 that's good. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, there may be, but I think, um, yeah, I just don't think it's beneficial, to be honest. I think out of all of them, the sixth sense, sorry, is the best one out of all of them. But
Which one's that?
yeah,
Sensing the ward.
that's the yeah.
Umbral
It's
glaive
for
thing.
supports anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Is
for supports anyway.
Yeah. Is there space to say, because we're running a pick comp, we try and take a couple of those, not necessarily on support? Like when we're
I think mid
playing Poke
laners can.
Varus, for example, or like mid laners, yeah, who want electrocute or
Yeah,
something, then can we take, if like, what would happen if you had three of those? Is it actually, because there was like a couple of patches where having like multiple Umbral Glaives was just super toxic. You had like Umbral Glaive support and Umbral Glaive jungler or something, and it's just super obnoxious.
I mean, I think you could definitely get away with taking it on like two members. I think
Mm.
any more than that, it's definitely overkill.
Okay.
I think in terms of the other warding items, I think the uh, Grizzly Mementos one can be pretty good as well, especially for um, Oracle sweeper users. Probably not supports because I think the sense one is better, but maybe for well, I guess mid laners because no one else really takes
Mm.
domination.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that will work in competitive. Maybe in competitive, sixth sense is just better.
Maybe, but you'd think sweepers are better in competitive than they are in solo queue because you actually organize when to use them and all that
I
kind of
don't.
stuff.
It's not necessarily a buff to sweepers specifically. It
Okay.
basically what it does. It just reduces the cooldown of your trinket. So
Okay.
it's not necessarily just a buff to
Mm.
sweeper, but I
Mm.
think having the reduced cooldown on that is more beneficial.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all I kind of have on the wards. Again, I don't think the warding ones will really. I think at times it will be kind of just you take them because you haven't got anything better to take, and you're going the
Okay.
domination tree anyway. I don't think
It's not a
anyone.
reason to go domination.
No, I
Okay.
don't think so.
Okay, perfect.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think these warding items are. I think they're stronger than the ones before, but I don't think they're like strong enough where it's worth specifically
Mm, mm.
taking that rune tree.
Okay, cool. Next thing.
Let me try. How do I tell out of this? Uh, I guess. I mean, I don't really know what you want to look at. We can look at.
Those are the big ones, items,
Yeah,
and because that the Atakan and stuff we're kind of looking at as a group
yeah. I'm
because
sure you're already kind of doing that.
we
So yeah,
have
that's
to
the
be.
main sort of. Yeah,
And the
that's the
stuff
main
like
sort of.
how much is early game important? Again, that's stuff that we kind of have to do as a group.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
okay, okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think firstly, it all looks awesome, which is great and will really help. Um, so if I go through the items and the runes, and I'll send over a list of like specific questions I have, and then
yeah,
if you try and kind of reformulate it with the thinking of simple as possible, do make like bold claims and not claims, do make bold guesses because your reasoning is always good, but just make sure that you're very clear on what is your like guess. So
okay,
even if it like comes up as a separate thing, like my opinion on this or something like that, could be quite useful. And then what I would say is first just write it out as a script, like a full script of literally what you would say. Because then I think the easiest thing to do to make this video will be to record the script and then put the
yeah,
presentation on later, either by recording two separate files, record your screen one time and record your mic the other time, and then put one on top of the other, or making it as JPEGs and putting them on a like Premiere Pro or whatever editing program you use, like a free one. Yeah, but also the other thing that's really useful is that we can go back and forth on the script as well. And so yeah, the thing is like simple as possible, short as possible, but both times
yeah,
I'm as possible
yeah,
means that it does flex. So I might, I know I've made it a lot longer now, but I might also then make it a bit shorter afterwards. But I think that could be really good. And I hadn't thought about it, but me going through and finding questions will be a really good way to approach kind of every patch, because that's also what I'll want to know. So it's good.
yeah. I think I agree with basically everything you said. To be honest, I think it's all.
Okay. Is there
Yeah.
anything you don't agree with or you would do differently? Because I'm open to that as well.
I don't think there's anything I don't agree with. I don't think, in terms of do differently, I think you kind of covered the main points for now. I'm sure
Okay.
I'll do this again next time, and then we'll find
Yeah,
probably a
yeah, we'll
bunch of
get
other
better
stuff I
at
can
it.
do better.
Sure, sure.
Um,
It's
but
bound to
yeah, for
happen.
now,
But that's the fun part, right? Because
yeah,
yeah, the more we do it, the better you'll get compared to everyone else at doing this, which is good. Cool. All
sweet.
right. All good. I'll
Um,
stop the recording and